Russian attacks in Ukraine have killed 10 people and injured 55. You're taking a look at some video of those attacks right there. The Russian attack on a city in northeastern Ukraine has left 10 people dead, including 2 children, 55 people. 8 of those children were also injured when a Russian missile hit a 9-story residential building in Sumy. More than 400 people were evacuated from the building, and rescuers continue to check every apartment looking for people who might still be inside that damaged building. Ukrainian authorities say another missile strike left the region's administrative center without power, and the State Emergency Service of Ukraine says rescuers and other necessary services are continuing to work at the scene. Now, this comes as President Biden has authorized Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied longer-range missiles inside Russia. To speak more on this, I do want to bring in Ken Gray, who is a senior lecturer with the University of New Haven and also a Homeland Security expert. Ken, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Good morning, Stephanie. Glad to be with you.
So I do want to start off with the breaking news, as Russian attacks have now left 10 people dead, dozens of others injured. What do you make of these latest attacks?
Yeah, so over the weekend, Russia used 200 missiles and 90 drones to conduct attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure. And now with these missile attacks killing these people, this shows the potential escalation of this war in response to Ukraine's push into the Kursk region that they did during the summertime. You know, in many ways, we're seeing domestic policy being played out here in Ukraine. U.S. domestic policy, in that with the changeover, the coming changeover from President Biden's administration to President Trump's administration. President Trump has already said that he will end this war, and in many ways, there is a rush to try to gain territory and hold that territory with the coming of the Trump administration.
And Ken, not to interrupt you, but you make such an important point, because there is now this perhaps a sense of pressure and a sense of urgency, perhaps, because of that transition of power. How does that change the trajectory in terms of military strategy?
Well, it really does. And it also puts us very much in a very, very precarious position, because long-range missile attacks into Russia proper by Ukraine will be attacking a nuclear power. And that nuclear power may feel it's necessary to use nuclear weapons within Ukraine, something that would not have been thought possible here 2 years ago. And so really we are in a situation where both the Russians and the Ukrainians feel very much pressured about trying to establish their positions for a potential ceasefire call by President Trump when he comes into power. Russia is utilizing North Korean troops. They are losing those troops at a very large rate. They lost 2,000 in one day. North Korea provided 50,000 troops. They lost 2,000 or 2,000 Russian / North Korean forces were lost in a single day. So, you know, this is very bloody fighting going on in the Kursk area, while the Russians attempt to regain the area that they had held during until the Ukrainians attacked during the summer. And so, again, it is with the threat that President Trump is going to end the fighting in this area, that both sides are trying to make as much gains as possible with this coming change of administration.
And speaking about that, President Biden announcing that he would give Ukraine permission to use U.S.-supplied long-range missiles inside Russia. President Zelensky, we were hearing from him yesterday, a restrained response. How likely do you think that Ukraine will take advantage of what President Biden has now given them permission for? Do you think that this is going to happen? And also, if it does, happen quickly?
Yeah, Ukraine has already launched some long-range drone attacks against Moscow. And so they have been known to attack targets within Russia proper. And so the fact that they are giving the green light on using this weapon system that was originally meant to be used by the Ukrainians against targets within the Kursk area is now giving them the capability to reach out into distant targets within Russia and try to bring pressure on the Russians. This gives them that opportunity. Whether or not they will exercise it is a different matter. The threat of nuclear conflict may not be the restraint on Ukraine that it is against the interests here in the United States. The Biden administration was concerned about the escalation of war up until this period of time. That fear of escalation seems to have disappeared. They seem, in their desperation and the waning 2 months that they seem to be ready to allow Ukraine to take these liberties of attacking targets within Russia proper, knowing the fact that this places us into the possibility of a long-term war. President Trump has promised no new wars, and so we're really in a very precarious situation right at the moment.
And I want to talk to you about that because let's say Ukraine does decide to use these U.S. supplied long range missiles. You can't turn back. That is a no turning point. And as you mentioned, Russia with nuclear capability, no doubt that is going to have some sort of response. How precarious is this? And is this more of a statement by the United States and not so much that they anticipate Ukraine actually using these missiles?
Well, that would be a real gamble on the part of the United States. That is, that they say that we're giving them the green light to use these missile systems against Russia, but that hoping that the Ukrainians will restrain themselves. Ukraine is in a very desperate position. Really, long term, the Russians can afford to lose more manpower in these conflicts than the Ukrainians can. They don't have a supply of additional bodies to put into this fight. So the Ukraine in the long terms is better off coming to terms with Russia and giving up the territory in the eastern part of Ukraine in the Russian-speaking area of Ukraine anyway. And that could have been done 2 years ago. But nonetheless, this war continues on. There are a lot of people dying on both sides. And we are awaiting President Trump to come in here to somehow call an end to this. He's threatened to turn off the financial support for the United States. He's already made statements to that effect. And he's also reached out to President Putin to try to set the grounds for his administration coming in to find a way to end this war. But the Biden administration has thrown a curveball in here at the last minute.
So I want to ask you this. Of course, we're taking a look at the waning weeks of President Biden's administration. Really, all eyes are on January 20th when President-elect Trump will assume power. With this transition of power, does that speed up or slow down the war, do you think?
Well, if you had asked me that a week ago, before the green light of the use of these weapon systems to attack Russia proper, I would have said that it would speed up the end of the conflict. But and the problem is that if Ukraine starts attacking targets deep within Russia, then all bets are off. That there is a possibility that this is that escalation that the Biden administration has really been fearing throughout the course of this war. They've been limiting Ukraine, not allowing them to attack targets deep within Russia because of the fear of this escalating into a greater conflict. If the United States shuts off funding of this conflict here, it is possible that other G7 members will continue stepping up and trying to fund it, but I don't know if they have the funds themselves to be able to support this war without the United States.
As we continue to watch these developments unfold, is there anything, Ken, that you're keeping a very close eye on?
So I am not an expert on the Ukraine conflict right now, and so I would say that the thing that's catching my attention is the addition of the forces from North Korea. That shows escalation beyond this regional conflict that was going on. And now with the green light for the use of these weapon systems, if these weapon systems start being used against targets, say within Moscow, this is going to spin out of control quickly.
All right, Ken, as always, we do appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you.
And we are continuing to follow all of the developments, including the breaking news out of Ukraine as Russian attacks have killed 10 people so far, injuring 55 others. This as President Biden has announced that he will allow Ukraine to use U.S. supplied long range missiles inside Russia.